Oh, Chris, we're live.
Oh,
we're live for this Panthers playbook.
Oh, Live.
Live. And you know what, Chris? Let's just go and jump right into it. Hunter Renfrow didn't make the initial 53-man roster. Are you surprised? Are you surprised Hunter Renfrow is not on this Panthers team?
I am very much so surprised. And I thought you were crazy when you were suggesting that Hunter Renfrow could possibly not make it a few months ago. Turns out, Dennis, a few months ago, you were right.
Yeah. Well, I was wrong, though, on my initial 53-man roster that we put out last week. So
Me too.
I will say that. But you know what? We have a lot to break down, especially this Hunter Renfrow thing. So let's go ahead and get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Let's huddle up for Panthers Playbook. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
That's right, Brandon R. We are doing it live today. We're doing this one live because, normally we drop an episode on Thursday morning, 7 a.m. here on YouTube, but this is a little bit different. It's cut down day. So, Chris and I, we're going to do this one right. We're going to do this one live for you all this evening. And like I mentioned, by the way, leave your thoughts in the comment section about Hunter Renfrow. Do you think they made the right decision? Was it the wrong decision to keep Hunter Renfrow? And Chris, I'm going to go ahead and ask you this. Yes or no? Good decision or bad by cutting Hunter Renfrow?
I don't want to call it a bad decision, but
do you disagree?
I think in some ways I disagree, but also I haven't been there to see what Bryce and Tremaine is doing. And clearly that's one of the reasons why Hunter Renfrow is not there. It's because Bryce and Tremaine did enough to flash to this coaching staff to show that he needs to be a part of this 53-man roster. Mm-hmm. I did think that this is a missed opportunity for Hunter Renfrow and for the Carolina Panthers because you have somebody who's from South Carolina, wants to be in North Carolina and with the Carolina Panthers specifically. Possible comeback player of the year award winner, depending on what he could do on the field. You know what I'm saying? It was a real feel-good story that could have been. And I also believe that he's the type of wide receiver and route runner that the Carolina Panthers have not had in a very long time. And I was thinking past this season because I don't expect to have Adam Thielen on this roster past this year. So who is the person that can maybe step into that role? Because outside of Adam Thielen and also David Moore, this is a very young wide receiver group. How can you get some more veterans in this room that could be there as locker room leaders, not only just this year, but moving forward, and also somebody that Bryce Young could possibly trust? I'm not going to go out and say anything nasty about the coaching staff or anything like that, because clearly they see something that we're not seeing. But I am holding out a little bit of hope that maybe at some point Hunter Renfrow can end up back in a Carolina Panthers uniform because I think that he still has a lot to offer in the NFL, and he has a lot to offer the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head is that he does have the ability to come back. I think that's something we have to keep in mind here about this, Chris, is that just because Hunter Renfrow was let go today doesn't mean that he won't be in a Panther uniform possibly at some point this season. This isn't the end-all, be-all.
Right.
We see roster fluidity is a daily thing. We see guys get cut and traded and let go and re-signed to practice squads and elevated all in like a week. We see it happen to guys all throughout the NFL. So I don't think it's an end-all, be-all for Hunter Renfrow. But let's keep in mind a couple things that you mentioned there. Who can be that guy that has a similar skill set to what Adam Thielen brings? I think that guy's Jalen Coker, a guy that's really good at intermediate routes, isn't the fastest guy in the world, but is super reliable, just knows how to use his body to get open, and seems to catch everything that is in his vicinity. Yeah. And I think as well is that if you obviously look at Tepper, McMillan, Xavier, Legette, Adam Thielen, those being the top three receivers for this team, 1, 2, 3, however you want to put them, that's up to you. But Jalen Coker really is that number 4 receiver for this team, and I think I think that hamstring injury for Hunter Renfrow really set him back because the quickness and stuff really wasn't there coming back from the hamstring injury from what you and I saw early in training camp. After he came back, he missed a couple weeks, and that really derailed him. So for a number 5 wide receiver on your team, 5, 6, in this case, 7 wide receivers for the Panthers. If that player isn't really going to contribute on multiple special teams units, then really what are you providing to your team as a number 5 wide receiver? Because if you look at it, Hunter Renfrow just signed a 1-year deal. That's it. There's nothing guaranteed on his contract, nothing. And if he actually was on the roster being a vested veteran week 1, his salary for this season is fully guaranteed. So again, that's why I think there's always a possibility that he can come back. Jalen Coker will play on multiple special teams. We've seen him both on kick returns and on kick coverage as well. Maybe not actually like fielding the ball, but we see him do that. David Moore can be on multiple special teams units. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Bryce and Tremaine. And you got multiple guys that can return punts too. Again, we're talking literally about the number 5 wide receiver for this team. Yes. And the reaction that I'm seeing a lot from Carolina Panthers fans, it's almost like they let go of like a legit number 2 in the league.
No.
Let's keep in mind, he didn't play football last season. He didn't. I know he dealt with the ulcerative colitis and all those kinds of things, but he didn't play football last year. And then now if I'm a Carolina Panthers organization where, let's not forget, Hunter Renfrow hit them up. Like Hunter Renfrow's agents hit them up, say, "Hey, we possibly, is there a chance?" And like, yeah, okay, let's see what he has. And his body didn't even hold up fully during training camp. How do you expect it to hold up completely during a regular season? Those are all things that the Panthers organization has to keep in mind, especially if you're looking at, again, a number 5 option. And I would much rather give reps to a guy like Jalen Coker at his young age where there's still growth and development than possibly a guy that might not last a full season depending on how his body holds up during the year. All those things that have to keep in mind when it comes to making this decision, Chris.
I don't have anything against what you're saying. I think the only part that I'll push back on is you saying like his body didn't hold up for the training camp. He did have the hamstring going on
2 weeks.
And I remember Dave Canales saying like, hey, if we had an actual game, he'd be able to play this week. So they held him out as a veteran just to make sure. And also it's training camp, right? There are going to be things that happen to different people. There's plenty of guys that made the 53 that missed a week or 2 here or there because of an injury. So I think I don't want to bring that up as a reason, but I think if it is a reason, it's because he gave the coaching staff enough time to look at Bryce and Tremaine, and they're like, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
And so that's more so it than the injury itself. That's the only pushback I want to have on that. But other than that, you are 100% correct.
I see what you're saying, but sometimes with other players that might get hurt during training camp, what's the investment? What's the investment an organization has? So, I mean, Hunter Renfrow signed a 0 guaranteed contract for a veteran minimum. There's no investment there.
Sure.
Whereas there's growth potential in Tremaine, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Jalen Coker and those kinds of guys.
Sure.
So that's why I think is that we are literally talking about a guy who is fighting to be the number like 5 or 6 wide receiver on this team. And I've seen some of the reaction being, it's like they cut like Jawan Jennings or something along those lines. The 1,000-yard, 100-catch season was 2021.
Yes.
It's been a while. It's been a minute.
Well, he was dealing with ulcerative colitis even when he didn't realize it in 2023. Mm-hmm. So there are things for that. But I will say this. Here's the positive outlook on this, right? If this coaching staff looked at 7 wide receivers, right, and thought that they were all better than Hunter Renfrow, who they've been saying looks like he hasn't lost a step since before the ulcerative colitis, right? That means that this team and this roster is in a much better position than what it was before. Because had this been 2 years ago, right? Take out ulcerative colitis, of course, and because that will have an impact. Hunter Renfrow is literally the number 2 or the number 1 wide receiver on this team.
Probably
and look how quickly that changed, with the talent that's on this roster. So I think that's the good side to look at. I think a lot of what, Panthers fans and folks like us were looking at is what Hunter Renfrow was, and that we've never had a guy like that on this roster. And also we're used to disappointment at that position. If it ends up working out to where these 7 are legit that much better, then, what a job by this front office. What a job by this coaching staff to get that competition. What Dave Canales has been talking about, having so much competition in that one room to where you're going to let go of a former Pro Bowler who you said looked like he hadn't lost a step. That means that things are looking better for that. And now those guys in that room have to go out and prove Dave Canales right.
And let's keep this in mind as well. Minnesota's been knocking on the door with the Carolina Panthers about Adam Thielen. And I said, I'll say it again for everyone that's just jumping in here. Hunter Renfrow, just because he was released today, doesn't mean he can't be on the Panthers roster at some point this season. Doesn't mean he can't be. If the Panthers trade Adam Thielen for a couple of draft picks, guess what? Hey, Hunter, come on back down here to Main Street, buddy. We got you. And I have no doubt that maybe the Panthers organization probably told him that as well. Because, hey, guess what? You trade Adam Thielen, you got a guy that was with your organization this whole offseason and can pick up right where you left off. And now he could be your number 4 receiver behind the young guys of McMillan, Legette, and Coker.
And he's one of the last ones that they let go too. And so that means that there was a decision that had to be made because they had to think about it. If you're in that first wave of like 20, 25 guys, thank you. Yeah. You just weren't good enough. After that, there are decisions that had to be made. And I thought it was very interesting. That was something else I was looking at is when certain names were announced. They really had to think about Renfrow. They really had to think about Shy Tuttle. They really had to think about Boogie Basham, former Wake Forest guy who spent some time with the Bills, I believe. And it was I think those names towards the end were very interesting to me. So shout outs to Hunter Renfrow. Again, we'll have to see if he'll end up coming back. Yep, he could end up going to the practice squad, as Terrence says right here. So, all things are possible right now, but I'm still holding out hope that he'll end up wearing a Carolina Panthers uniform in the regular season.
And that's the thing is him being a vested veteran, if he's on the roster week 1, his salary for the season is guaranteed. You can always bring him back, like Terrence just said. You can bring him back on the practice squad.
Facts.
And elevate him as needed. And with him being a vested veteran, you don't have to worry about him being claimed on waivers by another team. It's just simply he's a free agent. He's free to sign anywhere, and I have no doubt that a couple teams will probably knock on the door. But I still like where this wide receiver room is at as a whole, Chris. And just looking at this 53-man roster as a whole, you sent me a message earlier today, Chris, about the 53-man roster and just how much this roster has turned over in the last couple of years, especially looking back to 2023.
Yeah. I forgot who sent out the tweet. I like to give people their props. So I apologize for this, but as they were looking at the tweet, I counted it myself as well. And it was like literally names being marked off. And if the count is correct, only 15 guys are on this roster that was on the roster in 2023.
Yeesh, only 15?
And you're talking about like Bryce Young, you're talking about Andy Dalton, you're talking about a lot of the offensive line and some of the backups there. You're talking about J.C. Horn, J.J. Jansen, you know what I'm saying? Guys like that, Derrick Brown. Otherwise, this has been a complete turnaround. And a lot of the guys who were on that roster, most of them aren't currently in the NFL. Now, maybe some of those guys get signed to practice squad in the next couple of days or picked up on another team's 53-man roster. But a lot of those guys who were on that roster 2 years ago aren't in the NFL right now. They are complete free agents. So it shows the job that Dan Morgan has done in the front office. I'm just wondering, right? And I don't like people to lose their job. I'm just wondering why DJ Johnson is a part of this.
That's an interesting question,
you know what I'm saying,
Chris. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
That's the only one. Like when I looked at the 53, I was like, okay, I get that. Like I didn't really disagree with a lot. I think Hunter Renfrow got me, and then seeing DJ Johnson got me. It was just like, really? Because what exactly has this guy shown to you in the last 2 seasons, and also this offseason? He was injured during the offseason. During training camp, what has he really shown to you to get that spot? And I wonder if in their minds or on their boards, if he's one of the last ones out, like what was the decision at the end of the day to keep him, and how close was it? Those are the things that I wonder.
So the Panthers have the 8th spot in terms of waiver claims this year. So last year they were number 1 for the first, with the first round of waiver cuts and all that stuff came through. But this year they're 8th. So the Jets, the Titans, and a few other teams that are ahead of them as well, the Patriots. My guess is that if they're able to put in a waiver claim on 1, 2, 3 or more players, depending on how many, he might be one of the first people that's out. Because let's keep in mind, if I'm correctly, the Panthers claimed 6 guys last year.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was 6. Like there was a pretty decent turnover. That's where you saw actually Jalen Coker was on the initial 53-man roster, as well as Amir Smith-Marset on the initial 53. And those guys got put on waivers themselves afterwards. And I think that's something that we might be looking at here as well, is that you might see him possibly be one of the waiver guys that's let go because of a waiver claim that's brought in. So my guess is that if you're looking at kind of that borderline of guys that might not make it, he's definitely a possibility as well. If they find a corner that they really like, don't be surprised if it's a Caleb Evans, because Caleb Evans was kind of that last defensive back.
You want to just go through
as well?
Let's just go through.
And honestly, here's a name to keep in mind too, Chris. They need a little bit of depth at safety and someone that knows this organization well and also is good on special teams. Sam Franklin got let go by the Denver Broncos. That's a guy that they can easily, Sam Franklin, they can bring back. And also a guy that can talk some smack and bring some of that swagger back on that sideline. Sam Franklin could be one of those guys as well that could easily be signed and brought back.
He is a dog. So when I see Sam Franklin, I want to say, can I pet that dog? Can I pet that dog? I want to pet that dog. That man is a dog, man.
I will never forget when we were at the game in Tampa, the game against Tampa, that home game against Tampa, they lost in overtime. We were down in the tunnel.
Yes.
I got a video of it and I posted him trying to fight a guy from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off the field.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I am pro athletes like wanting to fight each other. I don't want to see it in high school. I don't want to see it in college.
Sure.
But like if you are talking a certain amount of mess, or if you're doing something that's out of bounds on the field or on the court, hey, let's handle what we got and move on from that. I am pro that happening all the way. Yeah. I mean, listen, don't listen to me, guys, because you're going to get fined for it. But maybe that is something that I love.
That's all I'm saying. Our guy Miko says, Kane's a guy like Sam Franklin. He's
absolutely.
Not wrong. He's not wrong.
You want to go through the position groups?
Yeah, let's do it. So we already touched on wide receiver, the 7 guys, and Hunter Renfrow not being on the initial 53-man roster. Again, there's still a possibility he could be on this team just then. Yeah. Offensive line, like you mentioned, 9 guys all back from last year. I was actually a little surprised that Jared Kingston didn't make it. I had him be on my initial 53 as well, but he seems like a prime practice squad.
Those were the exact 9 that I picked that were there. So it was, I did understand why you put him there for extra, but definitely prime practice squad guy for sure.
And I'm wondering because James Mitchell at tight end, so obviously Andy Dalton, Bryce Young at quarterback, the running backs, Chuba, Rico, Trevor Etienne.
And I had Blackshear, and that didn't work out. He's out. Injury settlement.
So James Mitchell actually making the 53-man roster as a tight end. Actually called a touchdown pass in that final preseason game against Pittsburgh.
Called that.
You did actually. And I'm going to give you props and credit on this one, Chris. Because I'm wondering how Tommy Tremble, still recovering from his back injury, how much that has an impact on, does he need an extra week? Does he need a 2 week? Does it flare up when he actually starts having physical contact? How is he going to be when he actually starts taking, having physicality, as Dave Canales would like to say? Yes. I think James Mitchell kind of feels like that insurance in case Tremble either has a setback or just isn't ready to go week 1 or week 2. That's what it feels like to me.
We have to see more from Mitchell Evans and, what he's going to be. But like, it feels like Mitchell Evans and Jadeveon Sanders are similar in the ways that they feel like they're more finesse tight ends. And Tommy Tremble is definitely like the dirty work. I will block you and I'll like be in your face type of tight end. James Mitchell gives me some of that feeling as well. So it would feel like he's like an insurance policy, because if Tremble can't go, right, then, of course we're down to 2 if you don't have James Mitchell. You can't just have 2 tight ends. But then also, like, it looks like James Mitchell is that guy who's, willing to block. And also he can happen to get open and catch passes as well. So that's one of those I called just because it felt like it was right to have 4 in that case. And I'll be interested to see how things kind of shape up after this between James Mitchell and Mitchell Evans. If one of them starts, moving higher than the other, or if, this ends up being the Panthers' core 4 for like maybe the next year or two. So, I'll just be interesting to see how that shakes out in the tight end room.
He's got a couple years under his belt in the NFL, does Mitchell. So again, maybe you find a little diamond in the rough possibly as well. So again, offense, the only thing that really was surprising me was the Bryce and Tremaine, Hunter Renfrow, and James Mitchell. That's really about it. Everything else offensively is relatively straightforward.
Here's the thing too. If you look at the way the Panthers,
at my lineup card here.
All good. If you look at the way the Panthers listed the names of who made it by position group in order on their website, it's very telling because Bryce and Tremaine is technically the 5th wide receiver there. They had David Moore and Jimmy Horn Jr. after him. So not only did Bryce and Tremaine look good enough to the coaching staff to where he moved on and possibly took a spot from Hunter Renfrow, he also leaped David Moore and Jimmy Horn. And you want to keep Jimmy Horn because you feel like there's a lot of upside there. There's a high floor for him as well. But he just kind of has to, get his footing. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy where first couple of weeks he's one of the inactives,
Oh yeah, I agree.
But at some point it feels like that's a guy that you want to use. Very interesting though for me that Bryson Tremaine is listed right after Jalen Coker, basically as your 5th wide receiver.
Which kind of gets us to the defensive side of things because if you look at that last outside linebacker listed, it was DJ Johnson.
It was
the last outside linebacker.
It was
listed
DJ
there.
Johnson,
and that's the reason why I had Thomas and Coombe. Not Tomas, but Thomas and Coombe on my initial 53-man roster because of what he can provide in the special teams game as well. So if you look at the outside linebackers, the fact that they kept 6 was a little bit surprising to me. I thought they would keep 5, and I think they would keep 5 off-ball linebackers. And Chris, that's kind of for a team that really lacked depth at inside linebacker. The fact that they only kept 4 was pretty surprising to me. John Radigan getting let go. Also, we look at Chris Barnes, who they signed during training camp, a veteran who has a lot of starts in his career and also a good special teamer as well, not making the initial 53. Now, these guys could easily, if they don't get signed by another team, can get put on the practice squad. Again, things could shuffle and work around, but I was actually surprised that there was 6 outside linebackers and only 4 off-ball linebackers.
Yeah, and also is a name that we didn't talk about before, which is Ben Martin Scott.
Yeah,
who made
missed on that.
Undrafted free agent, I believe, from this
Carolina.
year. So it's another one of those guys where kudos to the front office for finding some of these diamonds in the rough who weren't drafted, and so he makes it over John Radigan. And I thought John Radigan was one of those like shoo-ins just because you got the Seattle connection, even though, none of those coaches were there during his time in Seattle, but he was a part of, they got him from Seattle. He was really big on special teams last year. You saw him flying all over the field.
Yeah, he was a core 4 special teamer.
Bam Martin Scott must have really, flashed for them to take, John Radigan's spot. I wouldn't be surprised if Radigan is another one of those, practice squad guys as well, because you just know that they like him. But it'll be interesting to see how that room shapes up. It does feel like out of all the other rooms, that room is probably the one that could change the most.
Yeah.
Throughout the season. And I'm not even talking about with injuries. Like with taking away injuries, it feels like that room could change the most. So I'm not necessarily married to what's there beyond Trevin Wallace and Christian Roseboom. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, even though I feel like there's some upside with Sherlis, and clearly they saw something big in Bam Martin Scott for him to still be there.
I would not be shocked if they make a waiver claim on 1, if not 2 guys at that position, or at least try to acquire something. The market for that it's very thin. It's very thin because I think this is also not to deviate too much on this, but we see so much now in football where the value is placed on players. And if you have in high school a really, really talented and athletic player that might not be too big or not be big enough to be a defensive, like interior defensive lineman, well, guess what? They put him at edge rusher. because there's just more of a premium on that position. So when those guys get to college, that's what they're playing. That's where you're starting to see athletes get more put in those positions. If you're really athletic, obviously you get put at wide receiver, or they need to have someone that can cover those receivers. You've seen guys get pushed out to corner. You and I actually talked to, who was it from ESPN? I can't remember who it was.
Jordan Reed?
Yeah, Jordan Reed, draft expert. Goodness, I was about to say James Reed. I'm like, it's not James, it's Jordan.
High Point, North Carolina
Jordan
native.
Reed. I know. Shout out. A former NC Central quarterback. And he talked about how so much is getting pushed to the perimeter in terms of athletes, is that it's hard to find quality safeties and quality off-ball linebackers, just because of that's where the money is going out to corner, it's going out to edge rusher, it's going to wide receiver, it's going to quarterback. So it's harder to find those guys. So I think that's the reason why you see in the NFL, there's a much more shallow pool of guys that are drafted high at those positions, but B, just of quality players and just depth at those positions as well, because you're starting at a young age where you're not seeing those guys really get cultivated. I think that's the reason why we're seeing the NFL. Everyone's looking around the NFL going, yeah, we're not really drafting off-ball linebackers high, but we still need those. Like, everyone still needs those positions, and they're just a lot harder to find. It's just more scarce. And I think it's something that, unfortunately, the Carolina Panthers might just have to be a little bit patchwork when it comes to off-ball linebacker this year.
Yeah. And I believe that, of course, next draft, that's probably where Dan Morgan's going to have to focus. I know it's best available, but at some point, you're going to have to get some guys in there, and some really prime time, game-changing type of players for sure. Like there, and I want to see what we end up doing at safety and how that we'll get to safeties in a bit, but their corner and safety, like for sure, when you're looking at this defense, those are the areas that you probably are going to have to like fine tune a little bit more next offseason.
For sure. So you never know. They might find a guy there, but that's a real thin position going forward. And you never know. Some of these guys might still be around floating on the team. Maybe Bam Martin-Scott actually turns into something, because it's another undrafted free agent that was found. And as the Bobby Club mentioned, Dan and the scouting staff doing a good job with undrafted free agents. And let's actually go to Corey Thornton, the guy undrafted out of Louisville, making the roster as well. We're looking at the defensive backs, Chris, and he firmly solidified himself as the number one option on the outside after you get past Mike Jackson and J.C. Horn out there. Corey Thornton, talk about a guy that showed out and earned his spot on this roster, Chris. He impressed all throughout camp. 100% impressed all throughout camp.
Yeah, I mean, that's somebody that, we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. He's definitely flashed on television when we've seen him. You did go to the first game.
Talked to him one-on-one
for preseason. So I think, again, another win for the front office for them to be able to find somebody like that, identify him, and then he had his opportunity to win them over. And he absolutely did, because I mean, Shamar Bartholomew, essentially the job should have been his, because he's been on this roster and has had an opportunity to play with the one game last year.
But even this preseason too, like he got to run with the starters against the Houston Texans.
He had his opportunity, and so also to see Caleb Evans take his spot. And it was a shocking name, but as you look further into it, it's not as shocking, because Caleb Evans has this is third or fourth year in the NFL, 6'2". He's got that rangy type of look that Dan Morgan and Dave Canales want from their cornerbacks. I think he had some time with Minnesota, and so it's like he has that general outline of what they want for a cornerback. Obviously he's the last one listed. So if they feel like they can find somebody better, then, he may not be on the roster too long, but I'm interested in seeing how, he ends up doing, because he kind of, I don't want to say he reminds me of Mike Jackson, but his story in some ways reminds me of Mike Jackson. Yeah. Even though he didn't get to the Panthers in the same way, it's still a guy who essentially is another team scraps, who's looking to, find a home. So how do you take this opportunity now with the Carolina Panthers and try to make it your own? We know that the Panthers will reward you for playing well. I mean, look at J.C. Horn, look at Derrick Brown, look at Mike Jackson, look at Taylor Moton this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at Chuba Hubbard. If you're going to really play well, they're going to reward you under this new regime. They're not going to, let you go. So it'll be interesting to see if that ends up doing anything. But also, shout outs to Corey Thornton for making the squad as well.
So there is a physical profile, Chris, at corner, at least on the outside, that this team is looking for.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Mike Jackson, 6'1", 212. J.C. Horn, the other starter, 6'1", 200. You look at Caleb Evans, 6'2", 195.
Yep.
This is again what these. I'm sorry, 6'2", 198. Corey Thornton, 6'1", 195. These guys that can play on the perimeter. You got to be physical to play against these wide receivers in the NFL. There's clearly a physical profile that the Panthers want to have in terms of guys that can play on the outside. Now, I'm sure a Caleb Evans might be able to play in the slot, possibly as well. Maybe Corey Thornton can slide into the slot. That's a big question for me because obviously Shaw Smith-Wade, tremendous leap from last year, the 5th-round pick out of Washington State. He's a smaller guy. He's listed at 5'11", 176. Chris, I'm 5'10". He and I see eye to eye. But that's, neither here nor there. Maybe it's with the cleats on. But nonetheless, there is something that is still a major question mark at corner, is that if you got to go with another guy in the slot, another team goes 4 wide with 4 wide receivers, and you want to go man coverage, who's the other guy that goes in the slot? Is it Thornton? If Shaw Smith-Wade, knock on wood, gets a little bit of an injury, who's that backup slot corner as well? And like Mike Hilton by the Miami Dolphins got released, a veteran slot corner. Do you go try and sign him? Wouldn't be surprised if there are a few other teams that are looking to fill that void as well. I'm curious to see what Carolina does between now and September 7th to add to this secondary room, because there's still a major question mark, I think, in that secondary, especially at corner. I like the starters. I like that core group, but depth is a major issue. And we saw last year the Panthers got hit with that injury bug big time, Chris, and there's still legit questions about that second unit.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see what happens. What do you think about the safety group?
I mean, it's exactly what we expected it to be.
Yeah,
it's 100% exactly what we expected it to be.
It.
But we mentioned Sam Franklin got released by the Denver Broncos, and again, that guy could be a core 4 special teams player. Now, the core 4 of special teams, when we say that, is punt return, punt coverage, kick return, kick coverage as well. So those are they call the core 4. Now, field goal block and PATs and field goals, that's a little bit of a different personnel. But they call it the core 4, the guys that are actually out there for the kick coverages. That's something that Sam Franklin can do, and he could possibly be a gunner on that unit as well, and he can step in right away because he's been with the franchise for so many years, and he can provide a little bit of depth for you at safety as well. Let's not forget
I was going to say, not for nothing, like, I trust him if they have to make him play a little bit of safety.
Yeah.
Listen, he really won me over when I can't remember who was injured, but I forgot who was injured, but he had to step in the week that the Vikings came to Charlotte,
America.
And
like
he had that 100-yard, pick six, like
against Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who was injured that game, but he specific, like, that was one of the big deals.
It's either Von Bell or Xavier Woods, one of the two.
That was one of the big deals in that game, that, like, oh man, one of their starters are going down, and it's thin there. And now you see Sam Franklin, who hadn't had a lot of, like, real chances there, and gets that pick six. And he had a few other times where he was out in coverage where he got some pass breakups and things like that. I mean, he's not a starter by any means, but he's somebody who I think plays with a lot of heart. He's a locker room leader. I would definitely not mind having that guy on the team, because he's going to bring it every single week for sure.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Dan Morgan's making that call, or if that call hasn't happened already.
Yeah,
I would 100% be in favor of him coming back to this team as well. Let's keep this in mind. I know we're going to wrap up here because, Chris, you got some television work and stuff that you got to do. By the way, thanks everyone for tuning in and watching with us tonight. Normally we do this as something we post on Thursdays as well, but thank you all for watching tonight. So make sure that you subscribe as well. You can always go back and watch, from the start of this video, we obviously dove deep into Hunter Renfrow and him not making this team. Valid. But like,
God.
This is
What
what
a
you can
violation.
This is what you can expect on Panthers Playbook. So make sure you subscribe. But always hit the notification bell. Leave the comments as well. Obviously, everyone's doing it in the live chat as well, Chris.
Just really quick. We didn't go through the defensive line.
We actually didn't do that. We actually did not touch the defensive line. My apologies.
I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Just really quick. Derrick Brown, Ashawn Robinson, Tershawn Wharton, Bobby Brown, Cam Jackson, Jaden Crumedy. I called Crumedy. I didn't have Jackson initially. I came back, changed that after what I saw him do versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did expect them to have 7 here, and they didn't go with 7. So they went with 6.
I expected 6.
And you expected 6. And this is pretty much what you called, right?
I actually had Shy Tuttle making it. I thought Jaden Crumedy would have been a perfect practice squad candidate, but they chose to keep him on the 53. But I had Cam Jackson making it as well. But I had Tuttle just for the simple fact of, obviously their big 4 guys are going to be Derrick Brown, Bobby Brown, Turk Wharton, friend of the program, and Ashawn Robinson. I thought, as opposed to relying on a rookie like Cam Jackson and a second-year player who missed a bunch of time with last season with an injury with Jaden Crumedy, just someone that's a veteran that has a lot of starts that you can be part of that rotation. So that's the reason why I thought Shy Tuttle was going to make it. But clearly there's a movement towards youth on this team. There clearly is a movement towards youth. And guess what? A couple of young guys are going to be relied upon in rotation with those big guys up front. And hopefully that group can stay healthy. But and also, let's not forget this as well, Chris. LeBron Ray was put on injured reserve with the designated to return as well. So
he was one of the guys I had making it. So,
yeah, you did. So, I mean, kind of if you factor him into that group as well, I mean, Shy Tuttle started 32 games over the last 2 seasons for this Panthers team. 32 out of 34 he started. And by reports of Adam Schefter, he's going to be signing a 1-year deal with the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
So, I mean, so he's not going to be back with the Panthers. Yeah, and props to him. And I knew, I had a gut feeling that when he got released, I was like, you know what, there's going to be an NFL team out there that's going to sign him up for a year that can come in and just be a veteran presence and just, you know what, you can be a rotational piece on our defensive line. But this is a unit last year, Chris, that was a major weakness after Derrick Brown went down. Major weakness. And now it feels like it's a strength, or it should be a strength for the team this upcoming season.
It should be a strength, and I'm also looking forward to what that looks like at full strength in the regular season. We did not get a chance to see that in the preseason for obvious reasons. But Derrick Brown and Bobby Brown and Ashawn Robinson, all with more than 3 snaps together, I think I'm interested in seeing what that looks like. So, props to again the front office for putting this squad together. I'm excited to see what the defensive line is really that group and the wide receiver group. If I had to pick a position group on each side, those are the 2 position groups I'm really looking at to see what the improvements are.
There's a lot of money.
A lot of money
in that defensive line. I can't remember if they're like the first or second highest paid defensive line in the NFL. The Carolina Panthers. And they also right there first or second in the NFL in terms of paid offensive line. Yeah. There's a lot of money put into the fronts of both these sides of the ball. And you always hear Dave Canales, it all starts with the ball, starts inside out. That's what this team wants to do. Let's see if they can back it up. I'm excited about this season. I think I'm more excited about long-term the growth potential for this team because there's a lot of youth. I mean, Scorton, Umami-Ellen, these are really young players, even offensively with Legette, McMillan, Coker, Horn. There's a lot of young talent on this team. Sanders, Evans. There's a whole bunch of guys that we can list that are less than 5 years in the NFL or maybe entering their 5th year in the NFL. The growth potential is there. The question is, how fast are we going to get to that point? May not be until late this season. We'll see. There's definitely going to be some lumps this year for sure, Chris. I'm excited again about the growth potential and see where this team can go. I still think it's a 7-9 win team. I'm still firmly in that. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, that hasn't changed for me at all. But I do feel like with the right growth this year, we saw some growth from people last year. With the right growth this year, from their rookies and some second-year guys, and another good offseason for Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, who knows? Sky's the limit is 2026, but I definitely expect that 7-9 range for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. Chris, we should probably go ahead and do our normal episode that we're going to drop on Thursday morning as well, because we'll have all the waiver claims and all that kind of stuff. So this 53-man roster, it's going to look a lot different. It's going to look a lot different.
We'll see y'all on Thursday for sure.
Y'all be good.